Howdy, welcome back. All right, after spending a year with the Planar heater and testing it across a variety of conditions, including a P&W winter, I feel ready to share some thoughts.
But first, a story. 2 years ago, when I was planning my camper build, I was reading a lot of books about mountain men, fur trappers, and frontiersmen who lived adventurous lives out of simple cabins. And so I started to think of my truck camper as my own little cabin. And I thought that maybe by learning about these fellas and their dwellings, I could live in that same adventurous way. After all, I had a sturdy shelter, water, a chuck box for cooking, and access to the wild places. What more did I need? But then I realized that all these cabins had one thing that my truck camper didn't: a warm, wood-burning stove. And so began my decline into a rabbit hole of camper heaters.
And since you're watching this, I assume that you might find yourself in that same deep, dark rabbit hole. Let's get out together. And real quick, if you're enjoying these videos, make sure to comment, drop a like, subscribe. It takes about 5 seconds. It doesn't cost a thing, and it really does mean a ton to me. I appreciate y'all.
This is the 2 kilowatt portable diesel heater from Planar. It comes all the way from Canada. It's 7,000 BTU, and they figured out how to fit the whole kit in or on this rugged water resistant case. On the outside, we have the exhaust, our water resistant hookups, one for power and one for the controller, the fuel tank, which is roughly 1.5 gallon, the air intake with a muffler, the fuel line shutoff, and this is where the heat comes out, and there's 2 vents. Inside we have the 2 kilowatt heater unit itself and the fuel pump. P.S. Planar has a reputation for using very high quality fuel pumps. Also worth noting, you can see the level of quality and care in the way everything is routed and installed. It's just really nicely done. It also comes with a length of heater ducting, a power cable, which I've modified and we'll talk about later, a remote cable, and a remote. It actually comes with an analog remote, but I upgraded to the digital because it has a thermostat and I like knowing the temperature in my rig.
The only caveat is that the readout is in Celsius because Canada, and you have to do the conversion. And if you're curious, that conversion is Celsius times 1.8 plus 32 equals Fahrenheit. Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room. These things are pricey. It was probably one of my most expensive investments for the truck camper. And you might be thinking, well, John, why didn't you just buy a cheap Chinese version on Amazon? And the reason I didn't is because in my research, I found that this purchase fell into the buy once, cry once category. There are Facebook pages and entire Reddit threads dedicated to troubleshooting cheap Chinese diesel heaters. And I just wanted something that was simply going to work when I needed it to work. And so I went with the Planar.
I also want to address some of the other options like buddy heaters, propane fireplaces, electric blankets, etc.
The reason I prefer diesel heaters over some of these other options is because of the quality of the heat and the safety. Diesel heat is dry heat. Now, what does that mean?
Well, I can hang my towel or rain jacket up, and within 30 minutes of being in the heated camper, they're dry.
Heat from propane, on the other hand, can create moisture and poses a higher carbon monoxide threat. That said, using either of these options or any heater at all, you should always have a carbon monoxide sensor installed in your rig. They're cheap as chips and it could save your life. I want to pause here for a question though. What kind of heat solutions have you guys found and how have they been working so far? Let me know in the comments. Moving on to installation and how to power. This is almost a topic in itself, but I want to say do not buy this thing until you know how you're going to power it. So these are extremely efficient once they're up and running, pulling only 1 to 2 amps an hour. But on startup and shutdown, they can pull over 10 amps and I've heard as high as 14. So most power systems on the market today, portable power systems, don't have outlets that can support that kind of amp draw. For instance, most cigarette outlets are not going to support an amp draw of 15 amps. The one thing you don't want to do with this heater is cut the power while it's running. That can absolutely damage it. So in summary, we're looking for an outlet that can handle around 15 amps of draw, and we want a secure connection, something that kind of clicks together. Don't want it to be able to be tripped over and pulled out easily. Okay, I'm gonna go over how mine is wired up and routed into the truck, but full disclaimer here, I am not an electrician. This is just how I did it. Please make sure to do your own research.
From the fuse box, I have a 20 amp fuse to a 12 gauge wire with a male Deutsch connector. For the power cable, I cut off the supplied terminal rings and replaced them with a female Deutsch connector. I attach the power cable like so and route it out to the heater through holes cut in the Tacoma bed cubby. I route the cable remote the same way. Outside, I attach the provided heat ducting hose and route the other end up into the bed through the cubby. And then I attach the ducting to the cubby faceplate. Then I connect the power and remote cables, open the fuel line, and we're ready to heat.
Maybe you're thinking, wow, that's arduous. And you know what? I do too sometimes. But then I'm reminded of those cabins and how I didn't have to chop any wood or spend a bunch of time building a fire. And that makes me feel a lot better. Let's land this bird. So, would I buy it again? 100% yes. I love this thing. It levels up the camper from feeling like a glorified tent to being something more like a, well, like a cozy truck cabin. If this conversation has sparked some new interest in 12-volt electrical systems, make sure to check out my power systems video. And if you have any questions, comment below. I'll do my best to help you out. And as always, if you liked it, like it. And if you really liked it, come along for the ride. I got a lot more videos headed your way. I'll see you next time.